Hello everyone and welcome back to another video from our channel. In today's video, we will recap the American celebrities who have passed away in the past few days, along with other notable figures from around the world. Before we begin, if you find this content valuable, please support us by hitting the like button. Your support truly motivates us to continue bringing more meaningful content. Thank you so much. Now let's start today's journey. Jimmy Swaggart, the famous preacher of the 1980s, has passed away at the age of 90. Known for his fiery sermons and musical talent, Swaggart built one of the most influential ministries in the United States. Born in Faraday, Louisiana, he came from a devout family and was a cousin to rock legend Jerry Lee Lewis. He began preaching as a teenager and turned down a music contract to pursue full-time ministry, often preaching from a flatbed truck in his early days. By the 1970s, Swaggart launched a national radio program, later expanding into television in 1975. His weekly broadcasts skyrocketed in popularity, reaching millions of people across the United States. He earned a Grammy nomination in 1980 for his gospel album Worship, highlighting his influence in both preaching and music. Despite two widely publicized scandals in 1988 and 1991 that tarnished his reputation, Swaggart remained active in ministry. He continued preaching and building his foundation, launching the Sun Life Broadcasting Network and developing a family legacy that includes his son Donnie and grandson Gabriel. Jimmy Swaggart's journey from poverty to global influence shaped American evangelical media. His legacy, marked by decades of worship controversy and resilience, has left a lasting imprint on faith broadcasting. Lyndon L.B. Byers, the former enforcer for the Boston Bruins and beloved veteran broadcaster, passed away on July 4th at the age of 61. Known for his strong presence on the ice and deep voice on the airwaves, Byers built a life filled with determination, humor, and passion. Born in Nepowan, Saskatchewan, he became famous with the Bruins in the 1980s, playing 9 tough seasons and helping the team reach the Stanley Cup Finals in 1988 and 1990. He earned a loyal fan base with his physical play and larger-than-life personality. Byers accumulated over 1,000 penalty minutes in his NHL career, but his standout season was 1987-88, where he scored 10 goals, 24 points, and accumulated 236 penalty minutes in just regular season play. After a brief stint with the San Jose Sharks and in the International Hockey League, he retired. However, his connection with New England fans never faded. He seamlessly transitioned into broadcasting, spending 25 years as a popular radio personality on WF Boston and appearing in films like Shallow Hal and Rescue Me. His deep voice and captivating energy kept him in the spotlight long after he left the playing field. LB is remembered not only as an athlete, but as a true Boston icon. He is survived by his wife Annie and son Will, who shared that he was deeply caring about those around him. His smile, strength, and spirit will live on forever. Michael Madsen, the iconic actor known for his unforgettable roles in Reservoir Dogs and Kill Bill, has passed away at the age of 67. Found unconscious at his home in Malibu on July 3rd, authorities have confirmed that the cause of death appears to be natural with no foul play suspected. Madsen's trademark bad boy persona and strong charisma made him a standout presence in countless films over 4 decades. A frequent collaborator with Quentin Tarantino, Madsen became a beloved figure with roles like Mr. Blonde in Reservoir Dogs, Bud in Kill Bill, and appearances in The Hateful Eight and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Beyond Tarantino's films, he starred in Thelma and Louise, Donnie Brasco, and Free Willy, showcasing his impressive versatility across genres. In recent years, Madsen returned to independent cinema working on new films and preparing to publish a poetry collection titled Tears for My Father. Despite personal challenges, including the loss of his son Hudson in 2022, Madsen remained active and engaged with his fans. Known for his raw talent and unforgettable screen presence, Michael Madsen leaves behind a cinematic legacy and a loving family. He will be remembered as a truly unique figure in Hollywood. Carolyn McCarthy, the former U.S. Congresswoman from New York, and a leading voice in the fight for gun control, passed away at the age of 81. She died on June 26, 2025, at her home in Fort Myers, Florida. McCarthy entered politics under tragic circumstances after losing her husband Dennis in a mass shooting on the Long Island Railroad in 1993. That heartbreaking loss drove her to serve her community, determined to bring about change through action. In 1996, she ran for Congress and won, serving for 9 terms. During her time on Capitol Hill, McCarthy became a symbol of resilience, relentlessly advocating for gun safety reforms. Her work garnered bipartisan respect as she supported legislation to reduce gun violence while respecting constitutional rights. Her colleagues praised her strength and influence. Congresswoman Betty McCollum honored her, stating that McCarthy turned her personal tragedy into a mission to make communities safer. Her voice became one of the most consistent and compassionate in the national dialogue on gun reform. Carolyn McCarthy's legacy lives on in her work, and her unwavering belief that tragedy can lead to meaningful change. Diogo Jota, the star forward for Liverpool and the Portugal national team, tragically passed away in a car accident at the age of 28. His younger brother footballer, Andre Silva, also lost his life in the incident, which occurred in Zamora, Spain. Authorities confirmed that the car veered off the road and caught fire. No other vehicles were involved. Jota's death came just days after he married his longtime partner Ruth Cardoso, with whom he had 3 children. He had recently shared joyful wedding memories online, now tragically among his last public moments. The devastating news sent shockwaves through the football world, with condolences pouring in from fans, his club, and teammates. Cristiano Ronaldo shared a heartfelt condolence, expressing his shock and sorrow. "We were just together, now you're gone." The Portuguese Football Federation called Jota an extraordinary individual, while Liverpool FC described the loss as unimaginable. Diogo Jota's legacy includes nearly 50 caps for the national team Premier League victories and countless unforgettable moments on the pitch. His influence extended beyond the field as a devoted husband, father, teammate, and friend. The football world mourns the loss of 2 rising stars taken too soon. Peter Russell-Clarke, one of Australia's most beloved culinary icons, has passed away at the age of 89. A pioneer in television cooking, he became a household name through Come and Get It, a series that aired nearly 900 episodes throughout the 1980s and 90s. His charm, wit, and genuine approach brought joy to millions and helped shape the way Australians viewed food on screen. Beyond television, Russell-Clarke was an accomplished author, illustrator, and artist, publishing over 35 cookbooks and contributing artwork to numerous publications. He championed local produce through national campaigns and elevated everyday ingredients like eggs and cheese into iconic national dishes. His legacy extends into education, public health, and food advocacy, making him an authoritative and inspiring voice. He passed away surrounded by his wife and children, closing a chapter in Australia's cultural history. Peter Russell-Clarke was more than just a chef. He was a symbol of creativity, warmth, and connection. His influence will continue through the generations who grew up watching, learning, and cooking alongside him. Bill Moyers, one of America's most respected journalists and a defining voice in public broadcasting, has passed away. Renowned for his insightful analysis of politics, culture, and democracy, Moyers began his national career as press secretary to President Lyndon B. Johnson before spending decades in journalism. His legacy includes acclaimed PBS programs such as Bill Moyers' Journal Now with Bill Moyers and Moyers on America, where he brought clarity and conscience to complex public issues. Moyers combined intellectual depth with a steadfast focus on justice, media integrity, and civic responsibility. With over 30 Emmy Awards and 9 Peabody Awards, his career set a standard for public media. He was inducted into the Television Hall of Fame and the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, earning admiration for his integrity and calm authority. He was also renowned for making complex topics accessible, connecting with audiences through thoughtful interviews and compelling storytelling. Throughout his life, Moyers remained committed to exposing corruption, defending democracy, and amplifying voices often ignored by mainstream media. His work transcended partisan divides and became a standard for honest, valuable journalism. Bill Moyers leaves behind a legacy of fearless storytelling and principled reporting that will continue to shape journalism and public discourse for years to come. A classically trained pianist, she earned a scholarship to Howard University at the age of 15 and began her journey not as a singer, but as a determined pianist, aiming to break barriers in a divided music world. Her debut album in 1969, First Take, introduced her to the world, but it was the inclusion of the song "The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face" in the film Play Misty for Me that catapulted her to superstardom. Flack went on to win 4 Grammy Awards and became the only solo artist in history to win Record of the Year 2 consecutive years. Her albums, Chapter 2, Quiet Fire, Killing Me Softly, and her collaborations with Donny Hathaway helped shape a generation of R&B and define the quiet storm genre, influencing countless artists that followed. Even as she explored other creative fields, including film scoring, music publishing, and education, Flack remained a tireless artist. She continued recording into the 2000s, and later co-authored a children's book inspired by her musical roots. Her music challenged genre boundaries and cultural norms, uplifting generations with its sincerity, vulnerability, and grace. Roberta Flack leaves behind a timeless legacy, one built on truth, exceptional musical talent, and deep emotional connection. Harris Yulin, a veteran character actor with a career spanning over 5 decades, passed away at the age of 87. With nearly 150 roles in film, television, and theater, Yulin built a legacy grounded in versatility and emotional depth. Although never a mainstream celebrity, his commanding presence and nuanced performances left a lasting impression across generations. From his menacing role in Scarface to complex parts in Training Day, Clear and Present Danger, and Ghostbusters II, Yulin became a recognizable face for both film enthusiasts and television fans. On television, he showcased an extraordinary range of acting, appearing in era-defining shows such as Kojak Little House on the Prairie Cagney, and Lacey Star Trek Deep Space Nine, The X-Files, Law and Order Veep, and Ozark. His guest appearance on Frasier earned him an Emmy nomination in 1996, solidifying his position as a respected and enduring talent. In the Star Trek episode, Duet, Yulin delivered one of his most emotionally rich performances, still a fan favorite to this day. Beyond his screen work, Yulin was deeply committed to the stage, performing in both American and international theaters. His roles included acclaimed performances in The Diary of Anne Frank, Death of a Salesman, and other plays that highlighted his classical training and emotional range. His presence, though often quiet and humble, brought dignity and authenticity to every performance. Harris Yulin's career reflects a dedication to the craft over fame, and his entire body of work continues to speak to clarity and strength. His legacy lives on in the unforgettable characters he brought to life and the impact he made across film, television, and theater. Are you impressed and moved by the story of Harris Yulin's career? If so, leave a comment with the number 1 to let us know you're with us. If not, leave a comment with the number 5. I look forward to reading your feedback and sharing more fascinating stories together. Pippa Scott, an accomplished actress with a career spanning film, television, stage, and social activism, passed away at the age of 89. She first rose to fame with her debut film in 1956, The Searchers, where she portrayed one of John Wayne's kidnapped granddaughters, marking the beginning of a career built on depth and quiet strength. That same year, she earned a Broadway title, receiving the World Stage Award for her performance in Child of Fortune, a role that shaped her future in both classic and contemporary storytelling. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, Scott became a familiar face on screen with roles in Auntie Mame, The Twilight Zone Mission, Impossible, The Waltons, The Virginian, and many other films. In 1976, she landed the lead role of Maggie Hearn in Jigsaw John, solidifying her presence in the dramatic television landscape of the era. Although she gradually stepped back from acting, her creative influence only deepened in later years. In 2006, she made her directorial debut with King Leopold's Ghost, a powerful documentary exposing the atrocities in the Congo under Belgian rule. The film won the Jury Award for Best Documentary at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival. Beyond filmmaking, Scott's passion for justice led her to establish the International Monitoring Institute in 1993, an organization dedicated to documenting war crimes around the world. Pippa Scott's legacy is one of talent, purpose, and fearless advocacy. Her artistic range and humanitarian impact extended far beyond the screen, leaving a lasting imprint in both entertainment and global human rights efforts. Clint Eastwood, full name Clinton. Eastwood Jr. was born on May 31, 1930 in San Francisco, California, at the dawn of the Great Depression, a time that would shape his resilience and independence. His father, Clinton Sr., held various temporary industrial jobs, causing the family to move frequently along the Pacific coast. His mother, Ruth, a dynamic factory secretary with a passion for music, encouraged creativity even in times of financial hardship. These early years were marked by constant change, new towns, new schools, new faces, instilling in young Clint the adaptability and stoic calm that would later define his on-screen persona. Due to the family's frequent moves, Clint spent long periods alone exploring nature, hiking through forested hills, swimming in the bay, and tinkering with bits of machinery. Neighbors recall a skinny, quiet boy who observed everything, absorbing gestures, scenery, and stories that he would later translate into cinematic language. Despite his impressive height, he remained shy, cultivating quiet confidence rather than loud boasting. At Oakland Technical High School, he showed promise in vocational classes and sports. However, academics never captured his interest. He was drawn more to engines, jazz records, and the open road than to textbooks. After graduating in 1948, Eastwood worked as a lifeguard, lumberjack, grocery clerk, and steel factory worker, experiencing the backbone of the American working class. Each job helped him build physical strength and expand his empathy for ordinary people. This would later fuel the authenticity of his portrayal of working-class characters, which resonated with audiences worldwide. His brief time studying business at Los Angeles City College was interrupted when he enlisted in the Korean War in 1951. Serving at Fort Ord rather than overseas, Eastwood worked as a swimming coach and lifeguard for fellow soldiers. One fateful weekend, his plane crashed into the Pacific Ocean. He swam over 3 miles in freezing waters to reach shore, a challenge that reinforced his belief in endurance and quiet strength traits that would later define the man-with-no-name persona. While stationed at Fort Ord, he met ambitious actors and was encouraged to try out in front of the camera. His interest in acting was more driven by the prospect of storytelling and stable work than the glamour of fame. After leaving the military, he moved to Los Angeles, studying acting while working as a car mechanic. Small roles began to appear. You could blink and you'd miss him in B-movies like Revenge of the Creature and Tarantula. These early roles had little dialogue, but offered many lessons: how to mark a position, how the camera shapes emotion, and how to convey deep meaning with just a glance. Eastwood absorbed it all, believing that patience and persistence would eventually pay off. In 1954, a talented scout from Universal Studios noticed his rugged build and photogenic face. A contract was signed, but the studio tried to reshape him, adjusting his teeth, styling his hair, and pushing for a more traditional leading man acting style. Eastwood accepted the grooming, but resisted the artifice, instead honing a more natural acting style inspired by Gary Cooper and jazz rhythms. When Universal canceled his contract in 1955, he considered giving up, but instead doubled down, studying under legendary acting coach Jeff Corey and reading Western novels to gain deeper insights into character development. A turning point came in 1958, when he was cast as Rowdy Yates in the TV series Rawhide. Although still inexperienced, he seized the opportunity to refine his craft over 8 challenging seasons, learning about camera angles, script analysis, and the importance of collaboration. Outside of filming, he spent evenings in the editing room asking questions, a curiosity that foreshadowed his future as a director. By the time Rawhide ended in 1966, Eastwood had transformed from a hired actor into a recognizable face, ready to reshape the Western genre and, in the process, American cinema. Clint Eastwood's first leap as a director came when Italian filmmaker Sergio Leone invited him to Spain in 1963 to star in A Fistful of Dollars, a low-budget Western inspired by Akira Kurosawa's samurai classic Yojimbo. Hollywood had overlooked the project, but Eastwood saw an opportunity to redefine both himself and the genre. Donning a poncho he bought in Madrid and improvising much of his dialogue, he created the prototype of the taciturn anti-hero with squinting eyes, an unshaven jaw, and ambiguous morality. The gritty realism of the film, its extreme close-up shots, and Ennio Morricone's haunting score sparked a cinematic revolution that reached far beyond Europe. Its box office success led to 2 sequels: For a Few Dollars More, 1965, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, 1966, solidifying the so-called Dollars trilogy. Together they grossed millions worldwide, and Eastwood returned to the U.S. as a true icon, proving that silence, attitude, and authenticity could convey more than thousands of grandiose studio lines. Back in Hollywood, Eastwood quickly diversified. Hang 'em High, 1968 blended Italian style with classic American frontier mythology, while Where Eagles Dare saw him holding his own alongside Richard Burton in a World War II thriller. Coogan's Bluff, 1968 paired him with director Don Siegel, marking the beginning of a creative partnership that would span 5 films. However, it was Dirty Harry, 1971, their explosive crime film set in San Francisco, that cemented Eastwood's mark on popular culture. As Inspector Harry Callahan, he introduced a new urban Western style of justice, relentless, armed with a Magnum .44 and with an unblinking stare. The legendary line, "Do you feel lucky?" echoed across theaters, radio waves, and political debates, sparking conversations about spontaneity and civil liberties while breaking box office records. 4 sequels followed over the next 17 years, each further developing both the character and Eastwood's grasp on production decisions, proving that he was not just an actor. He was a storyteller with an instinct that perfectly aligned with the rhythm of his audience. Behind the camera, Eastwood's curiosity blossomed into a directing career marked by a spare-style respect for the crew and an uncanny ability to complete films on time and under budget. His directorial debut in 1971 play Misty for Me was a psychological thriller about an obsessed fan, primarily filmed on location in Carmel by the Sea with minimal shots and natural lighting. Critics praised his steady vision, while film studios recognized a filmmaker who could stretch a dollar further than most veterans. The actor-director dual role became his trademark in projects such as The Outlaw Josie Wales, 1976, where themes of revenge and reconciliation resonated with post-Vietnam America, and Bronco Billy, 1980, a tender ode to the dreamers on society's fringes. Each film honed his storytelling voice with tales of harsh individualism balanced by empathy for outsiders, conveyed through long contemplative shots that trusted the audience to think for themselves rather than being told what to feel. The 1980s and 90s showcased the diversity and longevity of Eastwood's career. Sudden Impact, 1983, revived the Dirty Harry series. Heartbreak Ridge, 1986, transformed the tough exterior of a Marine Corps veteran into a lesson in leadership. And Unforgiven, 1992, delivered a late-career masterpiece, deconstructing the very legends he had once glorified. In the Oscar-winning Western Unforgiven, Eastwood portrayed William Money, an aging gunslinger grappling with death regret and the corrosive nature of violence. The film won 4 Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Director, transforming Eastwood from a strong star into an author of deeply humanistic stories. He followed with The Bridges of Madison County, 1995, revealing a tender romantic side opposite Meryl Streep, and Million Dollar Baby, 2004, which won 4 more Oscars while exploring sacrifice, dignity, and the gray areas of morality in the world of boxing. By the dawn of the new millennium, Eastwood had appeared in over 60 films and directed more than 30. His name became synonymous with artistic integrity and box office reliability. Technological changes, market trends, and evolving audience tastes never swayed Eastwood's instincts. Gran Torino 2008 confronted racism and redemption in modern Detroit, grossing nearly $500 million worldwide despite its modest budget. American Sniper 2014 broke January's opening weekend record, sparking a national conversation about heroism and psychological trauma. Even as he entered his 9th decade, Eastwood continued to explore untold facets of the American experience: the rescue crew on the plane in Sully, 2016 citizens thwarting terrorism, In the 1517 to Paris 2018, and an overlooked mailman in The Mule 2018, where his late-life missteps raise questions about conscience and consequences. Whether acting, directing, producing, or composing music, Eastwood has evolved from a beloved Western star into a seasoned filmmaker with a streamlined aesthetic moral complexity and a tireless work ethic that has influenced generations of filmmakers. Clint Eastwood's public image, his lean frame, measured stride, and piercing gaze, has long been reinforced by a similarly disciplined private regimen. From his early days as a lifeguard to today, he has seen maintaining physical fitness not as vanity, but as a professional duty. Waking up at dawn, he enjoys brisk walks along the coastline, exercises and stretching routines learned from stuntmen in the 1960s. Eastwood was never obsessed with the gym. Instead, he valued consistency. 20 minutes every morning is worth more than 2 hours once a week, he told reporters over the decades. He also avoids processed foods, limits red meat, and practices portion control, a habit formed during the food rationing of the Great Depression. Coffee remains his only indulgence, drinking it black and quietly while editing scripts. Although rarely sick, Eastwood has had to endure the cumulative wear and tear from his stunt work. The repeated falls from horseback in the Dollars trilogy led to a compressed lumbar spine disc, which occasionally flared up, causing him to prioritize shorter shooting days or direct from a director's chair. While filming Dirty Harry, a car door collision left him with bruised ribs. On the set of The Outlaw, Josie Wales, a prop gun backfired, burning his hand. However, he refused painkillers, relying only on ice baths and his unyielding focus. These habits were admired by younger actors who often discovered later that their seasoned colleague was recovering between takes. His most dramatic near-death experience occurred before he became famous, a 1951 military plane crash into the Pacific Ocean. Swimming 3 miles through freezing waves instilled in him an unshakable respect for cardiovascular fitness and mental calm. He would often reference that night whenever a film faced logistical issues, reminding the crew that every crisis ends if you keep moving forward. Decades later, while filming Heartbreak Ridge, he insisted on performing a helicopter rappel scene himself, secretly wearing a knee brace to stabilize cartilage he had torn years earlier during a skiing trip in Sun Valley. That scene was included in the final cut without commentary, a testament to his belief in preparation and controlled risk. Contrary to his on-screen image of chewing a cigar in Westerns, Eastwood never smoked cigarettes, and only bit down on an unlit cigar for character effect. He occasionally enjoyed a glass of red wine from Paso Robles, though friends noted that he rarely finished it. He publicly acknowledged that meditation introduced to him by jazz pianist friends in the late 1950s helped him enhance focus and reduce stress. 20 minutes eyes closed, no mantra, just breath. Crew members recall walking into his dressing room expecting rehearsal notes only to find him motionless. A few minutes later, he would emerge completely calm and ready for a challenging scene. The inevitable effects of aging brought about medical milestones. In his late 70s, doctors diagnosed him with mild atrial fibrillation. Lifestyle adjustments and medication managed the condition without the need for surgery. A routine colonoscopy at age 80 revealed a benign polyp which was removed on the same day. His hearing in his left ear was impaired after a blank gun misfired on the Unforgiven set, prompting him to wear a nearly invisible earpiece when directing in windy locations like Big Sur. However, his annual checkups continued to yield remarkable results for a man several decades younger. A fact that his personal doctor attributes to his disciplined lifestyle, outdoor activities, and constant curiosity, which keep his neural pathways active. Mental health was also crucial. Eastwood avoids nostalgia by engaging with new music. He plays the contrabass poorly, but with great enthusiasm, and by mentoring first-time filmmakers whom he finds inspiring. He has openly acknowledged moments of fatigue, especially with the simultaneous demands of acting and directing, but he combats burnout by organizing his projects and reserving weekends for rest at his farm in Carmel. There, he tends to his heirloom tomatoes, plays short rounds of golf, and loses at chess to his grandchildren, insisting that these defeats help him keep his ego in check. Despite speculation about retirement, Eastwood's philosophy of living well remains rooted in action. Exercise daily, eat simply, master stillness, and keep the mind focused on new challenges. It's not a mantra, but rather muscle memory, an unpretentious blueprint that has allowed him to navigate 9 decades without dramatic hospital visits or long vacations typically seen in his peers. Those who visit his editing room are not surprised by weakness, but by his focus. He stands throughout rough-cut screenings, taking notes, only pausing to stretch before diving back into the reels. As a veteran cameraman jokingly said, "The only thing that slows Clint down is the rest of us." Loss has woven through Clint Eastwood's life, much like the barbed wire fences in the Western landscapes. He portrays silently, marking boundaries, occasionally drawing blood, and always reminding him of life's impermanence. The first profound shock came in 1970 when his father, Clinton Sr., passed away from a heart attack at just 63. Eastwood was filming Two Mules for Sister Sarah in Mexico when he received the call. The production delay forced him to stay on set, and he later described the experience as a lesson in how to compartmentalize pain. He completed his daily shots with unwavering focus, then retreated to his private room, where the tears flowed freely. This contrast, the public endurance and private grief, became a template for how he would navigate future sorrow. In the years that followed, Eastwood's personal life became increasingly complicated. His marriage to Maggie Johnson, which began in 1953 before he became famous, fell apart under the weight of distance and differing dreams. Their separation in 1978 and eventual divorce in 1984 sent shockwaves far beyond the tabloids. Eastwood felt he had failed to protect the stability he valued for their 2 children, Kyle and Allison. While co-parenting amicably remained a priority, he carried a sense of responsibility, a theme that would later surface in films like Honky Tonk Man, where familial relationships unravel at the cost of ambition. Parallel relationships, most notably his 14-year relationship with actress Sandra Locke, brought both creative harmony and, eventually, litigation. Locke's lawsuit for support after their 1989 non-marital cohabitation exposed their private turmoil to international scrutiny, forcing Eastwood to confront the pain that fame can cause to loved ones. Professional partnerships also gradually became memories. Sergio Leone, the visionary director who took a chance on an unknown American at the time, suddenly passed away from a heart attack in 1989. Eastwood traveled to Rome for the funeral, standing by the mournful music of Morricone as the casket passed by, a cinematic farewell to the man who created his screen legend. Just 2 years later, his mentor, Don Siegel, also passed away from cancer. On set, Siegel had been Eastwood's guiding star for efficiency and clarity in storytelling. Outside of filming, he was a kindred spirit. Their final long lunch in Santa Monica, where the two directors compared new film reels, remains etched in Eastwood's memory as evidence that a creative relationship could rival blood ties in its depth. Loss came again in 2006, with the passing of his mother Ruth at the age of 97. She had danced at his second mayoral inauguration in Carmel 18 years earlier and still sent him scripts with her mother's critique. Her death marked the end of the chapter about the Depression-era family unit that had shaped his moral compass. Eastwood channeled his grief into letters from Iwo Jima, immersing himself in the sacrifice of another generation as a way to honor his mother's resilience. Crew members recall him pausing at sunset, gazing out over the Pacific Ocean, the same ocean he had once crossed with ticket stubs in his wallet, before quietly whispering, "It's done." Tragedy struck again in 2018 when Sandra Locke passed away from heart failure related to breast and bone cancer. Although their romantic relationship had ended decades earlier, Eastwood quietly contributed to part of her medical expenses. Friends say that he mourned not only the loss of an old partner, but also the untold stories that died with each creative soul. His public statement was brief, but a few days later he invited the cast and crew of The Mule to privately watch Locke's directorial debut, Rat Boy, reminding them that behind every credit lies the hopeful effort of an artist. The passing of colleagues on set also weighed heavily on him. Stuntman Buddy Van Horn, a collaborator since Rawhide, passed away in 2021, prompting Eastwood to keep Van Horn's director's chair on the Cry Macho set as a silent tribute. Similarly, the death of composer Lenny Niehaus in 2020 resonated through recording sessions. As an amateur pianist, Eastwood completed some musical pieces himself, tears blurring the sheet music as he played. Each farewell reinforced an increasingly solitary perspective. In his 90s, he often found himself the last one standing among the backstage photos adorning studio walls. Within his family, Eastwood experienced the natural but heartbreaking distance as his children grew up and forged their own paths. He has 8 known children spanning multiple generations and relationships. Over time, marriages, divorces, and the birth of grandchildren brought joy alongside the realization that he couldn't shield them from life's struggles. When his daughter Kimber faced a serious health issue in 2019, Eastwood postponed pre-production meetings for a week, choosing to stay awake at the hospital instead of attending meetings in Hollywood. He later remarked that awards and box office revenue would fade, but knowing his children were healthy was the real measure of success. Facing loss also sharpened the thematic concerns in Eastwood's later career. Death in Gran Torino, redemption in The Mule, and the fleeting spotlight of heroism in Richard Jewell, each film served as a cinematic processing of farewell with the director, staging conversations with absent mentors, estranged lovers, and unresolved chapters. Yet he resisted sentimentality. Funerals in his films are brief, with the living spurring horses or revving engines toward the next horizon. It's a narrative reflection of Eastwood's belief that movement helps soothe the pain. Today, those close to him observe a man fully aware that time is running out, yet unafraid. He maintains a modest memory room at his farm in Carmel, filled with items such as harmonicas, gifted by Willie Nelson Siegel's binoculars, the Dollars Trilogy poncho, with notes from Leon, and framed letters from Ruth. He briefly visits this room each morning, acknowledging what has passed, then closes the door and heads to the editing room. For Eastwood, loss is not a chain that binds him, but a breeze at his back urging him to shoot one more scene, one more day under the sun-drenched sky. At 95, Clint Eastwood wakes up before dawn at his home in Carmel by the Sea, greeted by the stillness of the Pacific Ocean and a stack of papers with handwritten edits. He splits his mornings between family and film. Breakfast consists of oatmeal berries and a black coffee shared with his longtime partner Christina Sandera, followed by FaceTime calls with distant grandchildren who read school news while he smiles patiently from the screen like a seasoned headmaster. By 8:30 a.m., he is in the modest office of Malpaso Productions in Monterey, his work shoes tapping rhythmically on the recycled wood floor as he reviews the daily footage for Juror Duru, the courtroom thriller he began filming in Savannah at the end of 2024. To offset the fatigue from travel, he has turned a corner of the recording studio into a virtual production room, allowing him to direct additional shots without leaving California. Crew members half his age are amazed as he calmly adjusts a scene, trims the dialogue, and wraps up several hours ahead of schedule, reminding them that efficiency is a sign of respect for everyone's time. In the afternoon, he is often found at Mission Ranch, the once-abandoned dairy farm he restored into an eco-friendly inn and restaurant. He strolls through the weathered cypress trees, greeting guests who expect a legend, but meet a neighbor instead. Denim shirt, sun hat, a handshake that feels like an old work glove. If the piano inside plays a familiar jazz tune, he will sit down. His fingers remain nimble on the keys, drawing applause from surprised diners. A portion of the proceeds funds the Clint Eastwood Film Scholarship at USC, supporting students who champion sustainability on set. This is evidence that his legacy to him is less like a bronze statue and more like a young sapling. Politically, he remains an independent just as he always has been, fiscally conservative, socially liberal, and allergic to labels. Instead of speeches on podiums, he engages in civic participation through local conservation boards, supporting sand dune restoration projects and sea otter research at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. He rarely gives interviews, but when he does, he steers the conversation toward environmental management, gun safety reform, rooted in personal responsibility, and the importance of arts funding in public schools. His gravelly voice, once growling threats as Dirty Harry, now urges young voters to read, listen, and ask questions. In terms of health, Eastwood maintains the routine mentioned earlier with a few minor adjustments. He works with a personal trainer twice a week, focusing on resistance band exercises to strengthen his core. A nutritionist monitors his protein intake to protect his lean muscle mass. Doctors keep an eye on his atrial fibrillation and mild hearing loss, but recent reports show his vital signs are excellent for any age group. He always carries a compact massage gun peppermint oil for his sinuses and a Kindle filled with historical documents on topics he might later adapt into screenplays. The American Revolution has recently sparked his curiosity, though he jokes that producing an epic film about this era would take another 100 years. Family relationships remain his emotional fuel. During holidays, his 8 children and more than a dozen grandchildren gather around a large dining table at the farm where phones are banned. Stories flow freely, and Eastwood, in contrast to his quiet persona, is the loudest one, laughing at his own old jokes. When his daughter Allison premiered her independent film, Marble Angels, at the 2025 Sundance Film Festival, Clint attended, secretly wearing a baseball cap pulled low, allowing her to take the spotlight he had once dominated. Backstage, he whispered a simple message: "Trust your instincts and keep the crew well fed." Proud tears sparkled behind his aviator glasses. Creatively, his mind runs faster than release schedules. 2 scripts are in development: Satchmo, a biographical film about Louis Armstrong, which he may produce but not direct, and Rails, a journey exploring the Great Depression through the lives of migrant workers, a reminder of the movements of his own father. Even when his health eventually forces him out of the director's chair, he intends to stay in the editing room, where he calls it the final draft. A small sign there reads, "When you stop improving, that's when you're finished." It serves both as a mantra and a reminder never to rest on one's reputation. Industry recognition continues to accumulate honorary doctorates, lifetime achievement awards, yet Eastwood keeps the statues in a hallway rarely seen by guests. More important to him are the letters from young filmmakers who cite Unforgiven or $1 Million Baby as sources of inspiration to explore complex morals on a modest budget. He replies to every letter in his handwriting, blue ink flowing across recycled paper, offering advice on patience, thrift, and the courage to cut away unnecessary explanations. In 2025, streaming platforms actively courted him. However, he negotiated deals that ensured theatrical releases for each new film, believing that communal darkness and a large screen remain irreplaceable. Yet he is not purely old school. His post-production process relies on cloud collaboration, and he insists that composers send separate digital stems so he can experiment with temporary mixes during late-night sessions. On those nights, the caramel fog rolled into the studio windows as Eastwood adjusted a cello piece, pursuing the precise emotional chords that would linger after the credits fade. When asked recently what drives him to keep working while his peers enjoy peaceful retirements, he smiled and recited an old cowboy proverb: "The horse keeps going until the sun sets." Then he added softly, "Stories keep us curious. Curiosity keeps us alive." That philosophy defines his present, continuous motion, thoughtful risk, with one eye always on unexplored horizons. In an era of frantic content production, Eastwood remains a beacon of purposeful craftsmanship. His legacy shows that efficiency, empathy, and perseverance can coexist in both cinema and life. If you enjoy inspiring stories like this, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to join the channel for the next meaningful journey. And feel free to share your thoughts below, as this is where we connect and spread the passion for art.